Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Roundtable here at mycountylink.com as we continue to take a look at interesting people, places, and events that take place not only here in Darke County, but also around West Central Ohio. Alex Warner joined today by Ty House here on my right, Mike Stegall on my left. Glad to see you showed up for this one, Mike. He was a little late for our previous one here this morning. And our special guest today, the new head football coach here at Greenville High School, Steve Channell. And we've got a lot of interest among fans out here. This is a community that's been starved for a revival of the football program. And Coach, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Now, I understand. Let's talk a little bit about your background. You're an Eaton boy. Did I read that someplace, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Golden Eagles up at Eaton. And, you know, when I was at Eaton, we always did a lot with Greenville. So I think they're kind of cities that are very similar to each other. And ironically, our first opening game this year will be against Eaton at home. So that'll be a little bit nostalgia there. So, yeah, Eaton, born and bred, and proud of it, but I'm a wave now.
Yeah. And then so I understand, just looking some things up, actually we do a little background work every now and then. So you went to West Liberty University over in
West Virginia. Yeah, West Virginia.
Oh, West Virginia.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Played baseball there and started my career in education. I went and got my master's after my 4-year degree, and then went to my first high school football game because I was baseball primarily. That's what got me to college. I was a pitcher, and went to my first high school football game at Edgewood, where I started my career for 30 years. And the atmosphere was it was unbelievable. I thought to myself, sitting there, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of, I was enamored with that. And so here I am, X number of years later. I'm not saying how many, X number of years later, here I am.
Well, you're in good company on age-wise here, I'm pretty sure.
Here's kind of an aside, too, because, like I said, I taught in my previous career, and I did my student teaching the first year Edgewood High School was open. Because I was at Miami. And we'll have to talk about some of the old names, because what year did you get there then?
I'm not saying.
Okay, and I'm definitely not saying either. So anyhow, so we're glad to have you here today because you had so much success at Edgewood and then later at Miamisburg. Mike, you jump in here and Ty will jump in. Let's run this man through, put him through the paces.
Okay, well, one thing I want to know is, you said you enjoy the atmosphere, but how did you actually get into that coaching deal?
Well,
what was the process for you?
Well, I started out by, I was hired as a phys ed teacher, and right out of college, which back then was like really hard to do back then, because education was still one of those primary, majors that a lot of kids went into. So I was able to, obtain that teaching position. And then the high school football coach reached out to me because he knew my background athletically, wanted to know if I'd be interested in coaching junior high football. And I said, absolutely. So then the varsity baseball coach was on the football staff. Okay. And so he found out who I was and whatever and said, would you, like to be my JV baseball coach? So I did that for X number of years. And so I was a junior high football coach, which I think is really important. You don't see that as much in today's age, where you worked through the ranks and you worked up the ladder, so to speak. So I did junior high football for 3 years, I believe, and then became a varsity assistant for 4 years, and then took over the head position, I think in my 5th year. So, and I think that's important. I bring that up because in today's world it's really challenging getting good assistant coaches. I'll tell you that right now. And back then you had to work yourself through the system and be elevated and promoted as you went up through it. And I think that gave me a great foundation of a background of coaching, knowing how important it is at the lower levels that you have good quality coaching and so forth on the X's and O's and organization. And that was really very valuable for me as time progressed.
And so at Edgewood, that changed quite a bit in your time there, because that school district's grown quite a bit over the years. And then also you took on the role of athletic director then. Right. Were you AD as well as head coach there for a few years?
Yeah, for
man,
nine or 10 years.
That's like burning a candle at both ends.
Well,
catching it at both ends too.
Yes, more than both ends. There were several
multiple
in between.
Yeah, but, it got to the point where, when I became athletic director, it was kind of the height of our, success at Edgewood. And not to, I'm not thumping my chest, but, while I was there, I think we went to the playoffs, I don't know, 12, 13 years. And back then, most of those years when they only took 4 teams.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Okay, and it's back when there was only 4 divisions, okay? So, and then we won multiple league titles and so forth.
What leagues were you in at that point in
we-
time? Several of them?
It was the old MML, the old
Mid-Miami
Mid-Miami
League.
League, which was Talawanda, Edgewood,
Right.
Franklin, and then slowly, the MML absorbed some Dayton schools. So Springboro, Miamisburg, those schools started to come into play also, which got you more Dayton exposure, but we absorbed larger schools. So being a smaller school, Edgewood, we were still able to compete and eventually kind of, had our run there where we did really, really well. So, but then they approached me about becoming the AD, and I eventually did it. And I did that for, like I said, I think 9 or 10 years. And it was very difficult, but I had great support people and great people who would do like site managing and so forth. So, but it was difficult because you had to balance that perception that you're the football coach, so everything's going to be football oriented for you,
Right.
versus the basketball coach or the soccer coaches or whoever.
Right.
So you really had to balance.
You were wearing 2 hats
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
You mentioned, having good staff and things. You got your staff picked, are they participating right now throughout your organization?
Yes, we just left workouts this morning, and I've been, and I've told players and coaches this, I've been slow on my staff because I want to find the right fit
Right.
for Greenville. And so I've talked to, I don't know, 20, 25 coaches, but I've only offered a contract to about 4 or 5 of them. I've got the junior high staff is filled, and I'm in the process of filling the last 2 spots. But like I said, I've been slow playing that because I just don't want to run out and say, okay, you want to coach? Yeah, okay, let's go. I want the right fit.
Right.
And I want guys that have an understanding of the challenge here and the energy to be able to accept, take on that challenge, and a little bit of background about the history of Greenville and the history of their program and how much that this community wants to win. And it's going to take a commitment. It's going to take a commitment from not only the players, but it's going to take commitment from the coaches, the community. You were at our player-parent meeting.
Right.
So it's going to take the business people in town supporting the program. It's going to take a lot to build this, but I have total confidence that it can be done. That's why I'm here. And we're starting that process right now. And I hope I'm not answering future questions ahead of by the time you ask them. But the biggest thing I'm working on right now for viewers to understand is just trying to reset a culture. Just the mentality of how we go about things, how we're going to do things. There's a right way to do something, there's a wrong way. So I believe in you take care of the little things and the big things will take care of themselves. So right now, I'm dealing with the little things. So whether you're 2 minutes late to the workout this morning or you pulled up 2 steps before you're supposed to cross that line, anything in between is not acceptable. It's going to be all the way in. You've got to be all the way in because you can't be halfway in when you do a rebuild. You could be at Moeller or some of these big schools that win year after year, and you can get kids who aren't all bought in. At Greenville, I need staff and players who are all bought in.
Well, if
Okay?
I know that from at least initially, the amount of potential athletes coming out, both at the junior high level and at the high school level, from what I understand, what I've seen or heard, has been very positive, so put it that way.
Yeah, and right now, and that's a great observation, although I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect, right? So I want every young man that I cross paths with or talk to or his parents, I want him playing football. That's not going to happen. Not every one of those kids is going to come out, and I understand that. And but the numbers are up, I want to see them continue to come up, and I will continue to work throughout the summer, making phone calls and contacts. I mean, you may know someone, say, hey, here's this kid you need to talk to. Well, I'm going to do that all summer long. So right now, our roster's in the low to mid-50s. And I think last year they started the season around 40 or
40,
so.
right.
Something. Finished the season maybe 32.
38.
That's not sustainable for Greenville. You're not going to sustain a program with those kind of numbers. So the numbers are a big thing. And another thing I wanted to address to some degree is, and I don't know how to tell people this without being direct. You know, if you're born and bred a Greenville guy, then stay in Greenville.
Yeah.
I mean, we have kids that are leaving, going to all these other schools. It's like, why are these kids leaving here?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a misconnect or something where maybe it's a societal thing, maybe it's a generational thing, to where, well, you know, I don't like what this is, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go play there instead. So I'm going to work hard.
You know, one thing I wanted to bring up, you're coming into this situation. When you were at Edgewood, like you said, you came up through the ranks. Then you go to Miamisburg and you turn that program around. So you've already got the track record
Yes.
and you've got your philosophy and how things are going to happen. What you were successful with in Miamisburg is going to transfer right to Greenville, correct?
Yes, and again, I'm a confident coach, okay? I think a coach has to have confidence in themselves. If you don't have confidence in yourself, how am I going to have confidence in you? I have great confidence in my coaching ability. And Greenville has a guy here, and again, I'm not pounding my chest, so don't take it that way, but where I've been, we've won, okay? I know how to go about it. I know the way to do it. I just need people to do what we're installing right now. Follow through of what we're going to do, you know, be on time, do all those little things. But I know how to win. We're going to win. It's just a matter of how quickly people can buy in. And I keep telling people this from day one. I don't want to hear about the past. I don't want to hear about why we can't do something. I want people to understand why we can do something.
Right.
Why we can do something. You know, the days of saying, well, Greenville this and Greenville that. I mean, I don't want to hear that. I want to know what's ahead of us, what's forward, and that's what my focus is. So yes, we had success at Edgewood, which was a rebuild when I took over. Miamisburg won 5 games in 5 years when I went there. So, you know, Greenville is similar to that, and I know one of the questions is going to be, well, why'd you take the Greenville job? And the answer is because that's the beauty of coaching. Taking a program that's down and building it from the ground up and seeing it grow. Anybody can go to some schools and win because they're going to win every year, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 games because what walks through their door. Okay, go to a Greenville and see what you can do. A lot of guys aren't interested in that kind of situation because it's a long, hard process. But to me, that's the enjoyment of coaching. That challenge.
You got
As you
the
were-
interest in I mean, you've got a lot of hungry folks in the town that knew what it was like to win. And in other sports, we are quite successful. And we're not devoid of athletes, you know, maybe not have as many as Moeller does, but
Right.
we have what we have, and it's just a matter, I think, of learning how to do the little things well.
Right. I mean, for example, this morning, myself and the basketball coach met and talked and everything, shared our summer calendars with each other. We had 3 or 4 football players who play basketball, and I told them this morning with the basketball coach, go to basketball. Go to basketball, do your basketball practice this morning, and you can be with us, you know, whenever else your time commits. So, and the reason I point that out, at a school like Greenville, you have to share athletes. You can't have athletes, you know, saying, I've had some kids say, well, I'm going to focus on this one sport, or I'm going to focus on this thing. Well, at Greenville, you got to share. I mean, you got to share your athletes. So I think we'll have a couple kids that will be out for us that have played other sports that are going to play football next year. That could be a big help for us. But, you know, like I told you when you were at our meeting, we all have to do this together. You know, whether it's me and the basketball coach working together, me and parents working together, and a young man has got to have a job, but he's trying to balance going to a job because his family needs him to work versus playing football. So you just have to work. work away. I think coaches are problem solvers. They shouldn't be problem makers,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
It does.
I noticed at the meeting that you had, and I noticed you mentioned it to me, you came over to the table and said this was bigger than you expected.
Yes.
It's one of the largest crowds I'd ever seen. I was surprised at the number of younger kids that were there. And the second thing I want to know is, when you started coaching, almost every other coach has another coach that they was like their mentor or that they learned from. Who was yours?
Well, I, as a young coach, back then, because now people can learn the game on the internet or on a laptop or whatever, I would pick coaches who were longtime successful coaches. I knew I wanted to be a head football coach, and I would keep a notebook, and I would contact them and ask them if I could come over and meet with them, like on a Saturday morning or something, and I would just take notes and I'd pick their brain. I don't know if you guys remember any of these names. Skip Ballman,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ray DeCola. He used to be at Urbana.
Urbana, yeah.
Pat Mancuso,
Yeah.
who was at Princeton. Ned Boer,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Northmont.
who was at
Northmont.
Northmont. So I would go visit with those gentlemen. Terry Malone. You guys ever remember who Terry Malone
Terry
was?
Malone.
That's a new name.
He was at Hamilton Baylor.
Hamilton Baylor.
Ah, okay.
My
Oh,
first,
yeah.
this is a great
You
story.
were known for
My-
probably ref.
At one time, he was the winningest coach in Ohio history. Now, he's been passed by a couple of different individuals. But they won the state title in 1990. My first year as a head coach. We played them in week 3.
Oops.
We beat them.
Ah,
My first year as a head coach, we beat that later became the state champion. And I thought, shoot, this is
easy.
This is, I just beat a Terry Malone coach team. It was like, well, turned out not to be that easy. We started out 3-0 and ended up, I think, 7-3 my first year. But Terry was a great mentor. And I learned from Terry, he was an old full house T guy.
Yep.
50 slant and angle defense, and that's what he did. And you knew what he was going to run, but you couldn't stop it. And that taught me a valuable lesson. I'm a wing T guy. We're going to run the wing T, pure and simple. And even though teams may know what you're running, you
Gotta
still
stop.
have to defend it.
Yeah.
Because I want our mentality to be that we're going to execute something better than what our opponent is going to be able to execute to stop it. But I think that has to be a mindset. I've been telling our kids, we're going to make our opponents respond to us instead of us always responding to our opponents. And I think that's probably been the mindset here for a while is, we worry about this team or that. I don't worry about our opponents. I worry about us. Because what I'm teaching our kids right now, we are our biggest opponent. As soon as we can overcome ourselves, then we'll start worrying about who we're playing. But until we quit beating ourselves,
Yeah.
then that's going to be what the learning curve
The
is
wing
right
T
now.
you mentioned was pretty good. What kind of defense do you, on the flip side, do you typically run?
Well, traditionally, started out in the old 50,
Yep.
the slant and angle 50 with a monster. But now with the evolution of offenses, more of a even front, like a 4-2-5, 4-4 type concept, because that gives you more flexibility with the wide open offenses with, 3 receivers over here and 1 over here. And I was able to hire and talk Max Current into coming back to Greenville, so he's going to be our
That's a
defensive
good hire.
coordinator.
That's a really good hire.
Very good hire, and I met with him several times, to try to, encourage him to, help me in this process. So if all his success at Miami East, and he actually coached at Greenville back in the 90s.
Right.
Yeah, we went to
with
the
Frank.
playoffs, his defense was tough.
Well, Frank, so Max is going to be, running the defense. I'm going to be running the offense. So if somebody would have told Greenville last year, you're going to have these 2 older guys with a lot of success
Right.
heading up your program, I think people would have liked that.
Oh, yeah.
Sounded like you were the reason he came out of retirement. The way he talked, the way he talked at the parent thing.
Well, let's just say we'll help each other. We'll help each other. But I knew the biggest hire I was probably going to make was a defensive coordinator. And I'm very, very pleased that Max has agreed to come on.
It was interesting, talking about the wing T, and then you mentioned Skip Ballman up at St. Mary's.
He's wing T
We were
guy.
talking about this just before you arrived.
Exactly.
Greenville's first venture into the playoffs, we played St. Mary's. They ran that wing T. They had the ball 10 possessions. They scored 9 touchdowns and had the ball at the end of the game. They ran, what, 3 plays to the right?
6 plays,
3 plays
3
to the left?
3 to the left, yeah.
And they blew us up. And so when we heard wing T, we went, yes.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what do you look for in the kids you have come back? Because you were assistant the last couple of years at Troy. So
Right.
you've played Greenville a couple of years. You have maybe a little bit of a grasp of the talent level we have and things of that nature. How do you think that'll fit into your wing T?
Well, first of all, I'll go back to the numbers game.
Okay.
Okay, so the last couple of years helping out at Troy, you could always see on the roster that numbers was going to be an issue. And the later you played Greenville in the season, the better your chance became because the attrition was going to kick in over a 10-game season. So my focus, coming back to it again, is the numbers. What I'm looking for with kids, you know, from an offensive or a defensive standpoint, is exactly what I put on this calendar. And it's effort, number one. I mean, you show me a coach, a parent, a business owner, a player who's not going to make great effort, they're not going to succeed very at a high rate. Execution, what I'm talking about for you guys is this is the front of our calendar: effort, execution, enthusiasm. So then the next is execution. We have to have young men understand what their responsibility is on every situation, offensively, defensively, whatever. And not to sound like Bill Belichick, but, you know, do your job. You have a responsibility on this call. That's what your responsibility is. And then the last one is enthusiasm. I'm an enthusiastic, upbeat type of coach who feels like you get more out of kids by building them up than tearing them down. And I want us to have great enthusiasm because that rubs off on each other. Okay, if you're really low-keyed and I'm enthusiastic and he's low-key, but he's somewhere somebody's got to rub off on each other.
Yeah.
So I want my enthusiasm to rub off on the coaches and the kids and the parents and people. And I'm glad you brought up about, you know, kind of a sense of excitement or anticipation for this upcoming season. I mean, I'm excited as heck to be here. I'm excited for the season to get going, and I hope everybody else is going to kind of, you know, follow that trail of excitement. And when we show up the first game home against Eaton, if our stands aren't packed, I'll be disappointed. And wear Greenville clothing. Okay, you're wear.
No, that's Ohio State.
That's
Saturday, that's Saturday.
That's the only one that's allowed. But I started a rule from day one in the weight room.
Yes.
You have to have a Greenville shirt on. Okay, you're not Metallica, not, you know, not the Steelers by far. No, not the Steelers by far. But so I keep extra clothes. I mean, shirts. So if you show up out a Greenville shirt, now that may be a way for some kids to, you know, get one over on me and get a free shirt. You're going to change your shirt, or else you're not going to go to the weight room. So you have to have a Greenville shirt on.
You know, it's interesting, you brought this, we have this in our possession here, because the questions we're going to ask you, what are you doing in the off-season here as you first get things going? And all of a sudden, I'm looking April, we've got every date for lifting. I love the little monthly tasks to the side. Folks, I tell you what, every day from April, when you were first hired, through the last regular season game, and then what I really like is the last one, the first round of the state playoffs.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, every date on here, and when we haven't seen that organization like that for many moons, let's put it that way. So congrats on that, and I know this is part of your program you've been successful with in the past.
Right. But if you don't demonstrate this to players and parents especially, then they know you're not, what's the word looking for? Maybe you're not the answer. I don't know. I want people to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it, and why we're doing it.
Yep.
And that way they can be, okay, I get it, I know the picture, I know the formula, I know the schedule, I know the expectations. Now all you gotta do is go to work.
Have you had many parents talk to you about this so far?
This,
About what you want to do and their
oh,
kids?
yes, and it's all positive.
Good.
It's all positive. Now, let's be brutally honest. It's all positive because we're in a honeymoon here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now once we start playing games and, you know, things start, you know, going for real and stuff, and you know, an interception happens or a fumble happens or a kickoff return, you know, we give up a touchdown, then it's, you know, then people listen, this is not my first rodeo, right? Okay, been a head coach for 30-some years and X number of wins and all that kind of stuff. So I know what goes on, and I know what's going to go on. But, we'll get through all that, and, but to answer your question, yes, people have been very positive about and appreciative of knowing what, and usually, I got hired, in mid to late March, so I will have this out next year, like in January. So that when you're planning summer vacations or spring break or whatever, then you have all your information.
One other question. I've noticed that most high school teams that are fairly successful are pretty simple offenses.
Yes,
You're not going to get much simpler than the wing tee.
no,
I think that's going to be a tremendous advantage because there's less room for error. It's simple. This is what you do, and that's it.
no.
How did you come to the wing tee?
My third year as a head coach, okay? This was back, I'm not going to say the dates because then people start adding numbers together, okay? But back in that day, it was triple option, it was I formation, veer, all that kind of stuff.
We can guess your age now.
No. The spread offenses hadn't got started
Nope.
yet.
Yeah.
But then came the Houston Gamblers and the run and shoot and all that kind of stuff with 2 wideouts, 2 slots, and then it morphed out of there. So I went to a clinic in Louisville, Kentucky, and listened to a man named Tubby Raymond. Tubby Raymond was one of the first innovators of the Delaware wing
Yeah, I
tee.
was gonna say Delaware.
He was a head coach at Delaware. His offensive coordinator was Ted Kempsky. So they spoke at a Nike clinic in Louisville at the Galt House. I don't know if you guys ever been to the old Galt House. It's an old hotel down there. But anyway, I listened to them talk about the Delaware wing tee because my first 2 years we did power I, okay, just old I formation. And I listened to him about having undermanned players as far as smaller, not as big year in and year out, not having the greatest athletes year in and year out. And this took advantage of angles, ball faking, misdirection. And I thought to myself, that's exactly what Edgewood needs. And so I started, that next season I installed the wing tee. Well, as it comes, as it played out, we went 0-10. But it was the best decision I ever made. We went 0-10. We had 7 seniors that year. 7. And as a 7th, 8th, and 9th grader, that senior class never scored a point. I mean, in 3 years.
We've
of
had
7th, 8th,
several
9th
classes
grade,
like
never
that.
Had
scored a
class where they
point.
scored 1 game in it.
Okay,
By the way.
so best decision I made, go to wing tee, and the following year we went like 4-6, and the next year we went like 7-3, and for the next, I don't know how many years, 15, 18 years, whatever it was, we never had less than a 7-3 record, and we just kept building it year by year, which leads me into what we're going to do at Greenville is each year, like the 7th grade and the junior high is going to run the wing tee. I've already met with the youth leagues. They're going to run parts of the wing tee that I'll be installing with them. So we're just going to develop a feeder system. So each year, a kid goes from this 5th grade to the 6th grade to the 7th grade. They'll get a little bit more, kind of like math in school. You start with adding, subtracting, then the middle grades, and you go to the division and multiplication. We're just going to do that step process. By the time we get them to high school as a freshman, they've already got a lot of background
Right.
and
You
foundation
gotta
and offense. And we're not going to change, okay? So, well, he needs to do this, and no, we're going to do what we do. The last thing I check with people, their biggest concern is not what are you running. Well, I see everyone else doing all this spreads. No, they want to win. So what will give Greenville the best chance to win? It's
right.
not running spread offenses and all that, because our formula is going to be shorten the game. Don't make the game longer.
Right.
First downs are going to be pieces of gold. Every time you get a first down, 3 more minutes going to run off the clock. So we're going to shorten the game, give our kids, give our community a chance to win in the second half, fourth quarter, whatever. Okay, that's going to be the formula.
In your wing tee, now, quarterback's going to be under center?
Yes, under center.
Very rarely will you go shotgun snap. Never.
If you say shotgun one more time,
It doesn't happen in wing tee.
I'm walking out that door. And if people want to see us throw the ball, I'll tell you what I'll tell them to do. Show up about 6:45 during pregame, when we're out there doing pregame workouts or warm-up, and we'll be throwing the ball every time. But in all seriousness, we will throw the ball, but my adage is, we want to throw it when we want to, not when we have to.
Right.
So let's choose when we do that and not, and what, another thing is, as you guys can tell, I'm a talker. So you guys haven't had to do a whole lot here today.
It's been great. We love it.
I'm just talking. So, you know, we'll throw it when we want to, not when we have to, but down in distance, down in distance. People are going to watch us, and we're going to be attempt to be methodical. We're going to be attempt to be methodical. Yes.
That is a good philosophy to have, because every successful coach I've ever heard, and I don't care pro from whatever, it's always the same thing. You got to be able to run the football.
Yes.
And if you can't run it, there's nothing else you can do off of it.
Well, and we've been, and like I said, one of the things that's been a struggle for us is that from a defense standpoint, I think we've been ranking last, is that although we were able to move the ball, but defensively couldn't, we had a lot of run rules, you know,
Yeah.
so we just, because our defense was out there a long time.
Right.
And we just didn't have you playing both ways,
Yep.
and you didn't have the depth, and just about the third quarter, we just ran out of gas.
Now, I'm sure at Greenville size, you're going to have some kids playing both ways probably.
Well,
Or are you going to try to get away, I know you're going to try to get away from that as much as you can.
I mean, that's going to be inevitable. I mean, you're going to have a handful of kids that you're going to want on the field as much as possible.
Sure.
That's a given. Now, can we develop other kids, other players to go in as a support person for a series or two or whatever?
Punt
And then-
returns or
special teams, whatever. But the plan is not to have kids play both ways. The plan is to have kids play maybe 1.5, you know, and help on the other side of the ball. But it's exactly right, but, you know, what we mentioned earlier about, it's a numbers game here right now. The attrition and, you know, how healthy can we stay?
You know, one thing that Ty and I and Mike and any Greenville football fan has noticed over the last so many years is our inability to put people down on defense. It seems like our tackling skills have been lacking greatly.
I think Greenville's been weak fundamentally on both sides of the ball.
That's a Max Current project, correct?
Yes, that is a program project. You mentioned fundamentals. We will do fundamentals every day. You know, I speak, you know, around to different schools and clinics and stuff, and the guys will ask me, well, how do you do fundamentals during the season? I say every day. Because sometimes people get away, like you'll come in on Saturday morning after a tough loss and say, somebody, one of the coaches or D coordinator or somebody will say, we need to get back to fundamentals. Well, my question to them is, why'd you ever get away from them?
Yeah.
Okay, so every day, we're going to do ball protection. You know, ball protection drill for back. We're going to be a run-oriented team. We better know how to carry football. Run right, carry right. Run left, carry left. If I run right and carry left, I'm going to be tackled by the inside, from the inside out on the field. So little things like that. You're up by 4 points with 4 minutes to go, and you're the ball carrier. Last thing we're going to do is run out of bounds. The clock is our opponent, not those guys. The clock is our opponent. We want the clock to move. Okay, they only have one timeout. We get one first down, ball game's over. That kind of stuff as far as fundamentals. Tackling, Max has already started that process here in the summer on tackling, because Wednesday, the last Monday and Wednesday, the last 2 weeks, we've done install, because I'm not doing a typical, you know, where coaches block off 2 weeks to do a camp. I don't want to do that, because if a kid is missing or if on vacation during that camp date, he misses everything. So I'm spreading our install out throughout the entire summer. So if you go on 2 weeks of vacation, you're going to miss 2 installs. But if I do camp during those 2 weeks,
you
you're
miss
going to
it.
miss everything.
Everyone.
Okay, so that's what. But the fundamentals, yes, good teams, fundamentally sound all the time.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, we're getting kind of near the end of our time frame here and so
I've talked
forth.
too much.
No, you filled in.
That's why you're here.
The more you talk, that's the
You make
less.
us look good.
Yeah, less we have to make ourselves foolish here. But any final questions or thoughts, gentlemen, before we
No,
let the
just,
coach go?
you know, certainly wish you the best of luck, and tell you what, everybody's rooting for you, and it's gonna be a process. You're not gonna go 10-0, I hope you do, but it's like you said, it's a process. And 3 or 4 years down, that program moves forward, and I wish the kids, the senior kids that are hungry for wins, I wish them the best. I certainly wish you and your staff the best. You got total support, and glad you're here, Steve.
Well, thank you. And I will want to follow up with one thing. When you said we don't expect to go 10-0, I'm not projecting that either. But I think it's important to understand what I want to tell the kids is we expect to win
Expect to win.
every game.
Yes.
Every game we play, the expectation is to go win that game.
Exactly.
Because you take the season, you break it into 10 one-week seasons. So in week 4, whoever we're playing, okay, we're going with the expectation to win.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good.
Michael?
I would say you're off on the right foot right off the way, because at the parent meeting, I watched them while you were talking, and that's the first time that I've actually seen a lot of people sitting there going, yeah, that's what we need, that's what we gotta do. So I think you're headed in the right direction. I think you're gonna have a lot of success here, and I know you've got 3 fans right here. We'll do anything to help you we can, and good luck to you. I think you're gonna be very successful.
Well, I appreciate that.
The other thing I noticed too, there was some rain puddles out here in the parking lot, and he walked through them, so you can walk on water. And that's,
Well, at least through it.
And that's what fans are expecting. But boy, I tell you, to echo their thoughts, we are so glad that you're here, and the support will be there, and we'll get things underway, and look forward to a long, prosperous season this year and down the road. And so, welcome to Greenville.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here and embrace coming here every day and working with the kids and meeting parents and people.
Thank you
like
for your
yourself.
time, sir.
Thank you.
Steve.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
This has been
Thank you very
Steve
much.
Channell, the new head football coach here at Greenville High School. And you fans out there, this is going to be a ride I think we're all going to enjoy here as he gets his program in place and things happen. Anyhow, on behalf of the videographer Nick Schmidt, Ty House, Mike Stegall, myself, Alex Warner, thanks for joining us here on the Roundtable, and we'll see you with the next episode as we take a look at those things of interest around West Central Ohio. So long, everybody.